All right. How you doing, Mark?
Roger, I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being available. I've seen some great things of you online, and I thought I need to flag this guy down as soon as possible. So,
Well, we had a relatively well. We could have actually done a podcast based on the conversation we had last week, right?
I know, right? Yeah, it's true.
Great
It,
conversation.
it was brilliant. It was
Yeah,
really good. It was really good. So you told me about your facility, your gym, which you have in it's in Nottingham. Is
it
that
is indeed.
correct?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
it's a was it like a personal training facility?
It originally started as a personal training facility, and then due to the nature of me developing my more business acumen and looking at it from a completely different aspect, it's 5,500 square foot. So to just be personal training didn't really kind of work after a while, and we then opened it up to memberships, but a limited amount. So yeah, it's a membership and personal training facility. So
Mm.
yeah, love it. But my life and my journey is kind of, I'm in London now, so the gym's still running. I've got a great team there, but it's you know I'm doing additional things to having the facility as well.
That's awesome. And it's called M10. Is that right?
It is. It is. It
What
is.
what made you bring what is that name? Like, talk to me. How'd you come
Ah.
up with M10?
So here's the thing. I mean, my dad is an incredible inspiration to me, and we used to come down to watch England play a lot at Twickenham.
Okay.
And do you know the designer Y3?
Y3.
Y3. So
Oh
designer,
yes.
Adidas
Yes.
designer. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So years gone by. I mean, we're talking uh, 14, 15 years ago. I remember having a pair of trainers, the Y3 trainers, and at the point when I was going to start my business, all I wanted was something that was smart and minimalist. And so I sat down with a guy that I knew who happened to do a bit of business stuff, and we were just chatting about it. And he said, "This weekend, just go away and start thinking of what you want." And Dad and I were on the train, and I remember we got on the train, and Dad got Bucks Fizz out, and we sat on the train, and we had it. It was a classic thing of his that he'd always do. And we went up to London, down to London from Nottingham, and when we got to Twickenham, after loads of conversations, Dad said, "Look, what do you want the business to be called?" And I said, "It's a letter and a number. It's just minimal." And he said, "Well, M, Mark." And I said, "Well, yeah, I obviously I like that." But then he was like M3, M9, M something. And I was like typing it in Safari or whatever we had back then. And and Dad and I got to Twickenham, and we got the tickets out, and both of our tickets said enter via stand M10. So we stood underneath M10. We had a photo, and I said, "Dad, that's it." So for me, it signifies the relationship with my dad.
Yeah.
But 10 for me is obviously 10 out of 10. And it all kind of fell in really nicely. So it was a letter and a number. And it kind of, one of the big things for me was creating a brand that was smart, minimalistic, and professional. And so I didn't really want anything too long. I wanted it minimal. And that's kind of where the brand's evolved from. So it's got a story behind it.
That's amazing. And the clientele which you have at the gym, like what sort of clients do you have there?
Well, I'm sure you'll know, having been in the industry. Well, you've been in the industry like 2 or 3 years now, Roger?
2 or 3 years?
You're an
Yeah, just
OG,
go.
man. You're an OG. When you messaged me and you were like, I was like, Roger. No, I remember like PhD days, Roger.
Yeah,
I
that's
remember
right. Yeah.
PhD days, Roger. People listening to this were like, PhD? Who's that? I was
I
like,
know,
listen,
right?
we know Roger. We know Roger.
That's
And
great.
so essentially, I mean, I've gone through multiple changes throughout my career in the fitness industry, and I started personal training or joining the fitness industry simply because all I can say is it did something for me that nothing else did. I just, as everyone else does who finds the gym for the first time, it was just my happy place. So when I started
Yeah.
personal training, it was genuinely just to help people be happier in the gym. And there was no avatar, there was no target audience. It was just, if I could actually help somebody enjoy being in the gym, and that's why it started. So when I probably did 5 years, 5 years working in a health club, training all different types of people, when I opened my gym, if I'm honest with you, all I wanted to do was work with people that wanted to train hard. That's it.
Yeah.
As long as you put the work in, I didn't care whether you were fat, thin, black, white, Indian, Asian, don't care. Just train hard.
So it's not much to ask.
Not a lot to ask. And honestly, I would have all different shapes and sizes, you know, all different levels of confidence. But my goal was always to get them to train a little bit harder. And naturally, after I was doing that time and time again, we ended up still training general population people. But for a long time, we entered into that kind of body transformation market. So it was very much to do with people that wanted to 12, 16 weeks to achieve something that they never thought was possible. And as my career developed, I did a good stint in bodybuilding, trained a lot of bodybuilders, a lot of physique athletes. But now at M10 as a gym, our primary core audience is still helping people achieve something that they never thought was possible. Doesn't matter where you are, but we have a framework to help people continue to make progress with the goal of just achieving something they didn't think was possible. That's our main thing. So whatever it is that you think that you have coming in to achieve, we'll double that. Because not we're forcing you to double it, but our slogan is expect more, achieve more. So expect more from us, expect more from yourself, and you'll achieve way more than you ever thought was possible. And I think if you set a level of expectation for people, and we can help you achieve this, but also let go at the door all the challenges that you've got around, I can't do this, I can't do that. Let's create some new possibilities. And that's a big thing, because a lot of the whole team in Nottingham, we all share this common goal, this common vision to achieve the same thing with everybody that's in the facility. So I'm very proud of it. As every gym owner knows, it's always a challenge developing the brand and keeping it all together. But I think that one of the reasons why I've got a gym is everything that it's taught me along the way. And that's why it's still with me. I think so many things that happen in our life are with us for a reason, and they're a lesson. And for me, I think that the gym has given me more reason to study business and learn business than anything else. And it's just it's an incredible hub, and it's been built. I mean, I'm not there anymore, but in terms of I go up there each week, but in terms of being a facility, it's phenomenal. We've got some great equipment, and it's a great gym. So very proud of it.
That's awesome. So you're currently in London.
I am
you planning to set something else up? You thinking maybe?
Only today, Roger. I've had 3 messages from a Q&A I did that said, why no M10 number 2? Why this? Why that?
M10 number 2.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Dan and I, who's my director of personal training in Nottingham, we kind of co-directors of a centre of excellence for personal training. Essentially, the gym in Nottingham is almost like our centre of excellence for delivering the standard of education that we teach personal trainers worldwide. Everybody who knows when they open a facility, I think if you're going to duplicate a model, that has to be one of the primary aspects of your business. For me to duplicate the model again and nail it second time round, I have to spend a lot of time in that model. And there's a lot of other stuff that we're doing let me just say the vision for the brand is bigger than one more gym.
Yeah, got you.
And I think a lot of personal trainers, a lot of fitness professionals, even anybody in life creates a business necessarily because they will like the idea of it. But at the end of the day, it's got to work. It's got to be scalable, and it's got to make money, isn't it? At the end of the day. So that decision, it's not been an easy journey. Building a facility is never an easy task. But to create one in London, I think there's a very good reason why some of the best gyms are on the suburbs of London rather than central, because it's not easy to do, is it? So yeah, no, not at the moment, no plans.
Okay, so you do coaching, and what do you run workshops as well? What's your whole business model exactly?
So essentially what we have, I have we have the gym, personal training and gym membership one side, and then we have an education model, which is on the other side. And the education model is split into 2. We have business development and a center of excellence for fitness professionals. So our coaching model is we create coaches. We don't teach coaches. I'll explain what I mean by that. There's a lot of education in the fitness industry, and phenomenal education. Every educator is doing a phenomenal job. But I, for one, in the fitness industry, have had a lot of mentors over the years. I've had a lot of people steering this Mark Cole ship. And I've invested a lot of time. Whenever we come into contact with a coach, 9 times out of 10, it's connecting the dots that's the problem. And it's where are you now? Where do you want to get to? What knowledge is lacking? And how do we steer that ship with you? There's a lot of Low self-confidence, self-doubt, frustration, overwhelm in the fitness industry. There's a lot. Trainers thinking they should be something, thinking they should be doing something else. And what we realized over the years from having a minimum of 7 trainers at any one time in the gym is personal growth and development plays probably one of the biggest factors in how we create a coach.
Mm-hmm.
The knowledge, fat loss, I mean, let's be honest, Roger, to train a general population person, you know yourself, if we can get somebody to stick to a diet and go to the gym 3 times a week, we wouldn't actually have half of the obesity problems in this world.
Very true, yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, waking up and making a conscious decision to not eat crap, that is an emotional decision somebody's making.
Mm-hmm.
And therefore, the one big thing that trainers, I find, have a big problem with is their own emotions. And therefore, for a personal trainer to teach somebody in life to take control of their diet, take control of their training, be happy and confident, how can they do it if they're not a mirror of that themselves?
Absolutely.
Right. So what I've realized that since the age of 23, 24, personal development, I've been on the most magical journey. And I essentially have rebuilt myself from the age of 23. And in doing that, I've studied immense biomechanics and science and kind of physiology, everything. But alongside that, the only reason it's all embedded into who I am today is personal development. So we've involved a lot of personal development in our coaching model for personal trainers. We don't want to create a more overwhelmed trainer. We don't want to add education and information onto a trainer that's got low self-confidence. We don't want to add education and overwhelm a trainer that's got, they're comparing themselves to other people in the industry and making themselves feel terrible. So we essentially take each individual personal trainer and we do an evaluation of where we think they are now. And we have mentoring alongside the educational program that we do. And the new website that we're building has like a 4-step quiz. And we're able to decide what's best for you at any given time, as opposed to, yes, you need to learn biomechanics. Yes, you need to learn this. We'll teach it all, but we want to create a confident, self-assured, a coach that's in control of themselves. And then they become a better coach to help other people become in control of themselves too.
It's amazing.
And then that's a massive thing. I think the word personal development to me, essentially, if I could just sum it up very shortly, is just in control. Can we learn to be in control of ourselves and not be emotionally triggered by a lot of external noise? And also, can we stay aligned to what's truly important to us in our life and not be living a life almost repeating somebody else's and spending most of your life trying to be somebody else and not be yourself? You know, and this to a lot of people thinking, wow, this is a bit deep for personal trainers. They just want to learn nutrition and training. It's like, well, we wouldn't have so many people leaving the fitness industry, Roger, if it wasn't for, if they were more in control and more happy in themselves. Because a lot of personal trainers, as you know, working with many over the years, a lot of people join the fitness industry because the gym is probably the thing that's got them out of their dark place.
Absolutely. And what happened during the whole pandemic? A lot of the personal trainers themselves got in depression. Amazing.
Huge. I mean, to be honest with you, there's a lot of people that said to me, you know, how did you find the pandemic? And I said, I doubled a portion of my business during the pandemic because of the amount of mentoring that people needed. It was incredible. It was, listen, Mark, I'm really struggling. I don't know what to do. You know, I've not got this and I've not got that. And I spent a lot of time, and I normally do a call once a week with an online group I have. I ended up doing 2.5 hours a week with these guys. I have a mastermind program that meets with me once a month. I ended up doing 2.5 hours with those independently every week to just keep everybody on track. And what I noticed with everybody is that they very quickly became very disillusioned with the whole thing and weren't able to control their own emotions around the whole situation. And there were a lot of personal trainers, a lot of fitness professionals who really went downhill, and they didn't stop and go, I can get in control of this. I can take this forward. I can do that. They actually had to have a lot of support. So where they knew a lot, they didn't know how to apply it. And when we sit down and create our education programs, that's why helping a coach identify where their challenges lie, helping them to overcome them. But it's not I don't believe in motivation. I think that it's nice to have a bit of motivation, but the deep rooted thing that keeps people moving forward is the inspiration. It's
Amen.
the thing.
Yeah.
It's motivation's easy to pick up an Eric Thomas soundbite or a Tony Robbins video or something that says you are greatness, and you're like, I am great, and you can go down the road, but then turn that MP3 player off, you're gone.
Yeah.
James Hollingshead, who's a IFBB pro, I'm sure you know. James put a post out yesterday, and I loved it. He got like 7 plates on this back squat, and he went, no noise, no anger, just me lifting. And it was almost like he didn't need to make himself angry. He made a point that he didn't need external stimulus, because the inspired driver 5 weeks out from a pro show, that's all he needed.
5 weeks out from a pro show.
but
7 plates aside.
Right. And obviously, I know you've competed, and when you're normally at that 5.5 weeks out, I mean, to be that strong. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
When I speak to a lot of personal trainers, they don't know what inspires them. They are a personal trainer by trade. They are a person that works with clients by trade. And I'm like, tell me what inspires you every day. And I find a lot of personal trainers after a year or two are so lost, and they're so, this word burnt out that's used all the time.
Yeah.
Roger, what is it, 7 o'clock in the evening, and you and I, both our eyes are wide open and buzzing to talk about these wonderful subjects. And both of us have been in the industry a long amount of time. Whereas a lot of personal trainers get to 5 o'clock in the evening and go, God, is that my last client? Oh, can't wait till the weekend. And I think we've lost kind of touch of, what inspires us, what motivates us, because the fitness industry for me it's just been an incredible gift. And yes, I've spent a lot of time trying to find out how where I fit in the kind of grand scheme of the direction that I want to go. But, a lot of personal trainers join it and they're trainers. A lot of fitness professionals, online coaches join it because they think that that's what they need to do, but they've not got their purpose nailed down of where they want to be, because ultimately once you add the knowledge, the skill, the science, the biomechanics, the theory to it, it's like the icing on the cake. But when you add the icing on the cake and the cake's not there, it just looks a bit of a mess. And that's what inspires me, because my journey in the fitness industry since the age of 24 has been, oh my God, I'm scrambled. I mean, Roger, I was finishing personal training at 4 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, and I literally was, I can only describe it as absolutely wasted till Sunday night. The first thing, I'd go out on a Friday night, Saturday, I mean, this was early on in my journey, but Saturday, Sunday, out with the boys, Monday back. And I was so challenged between trying to keep hold of a social life, trying to be a fitness professional. And I got very, very lost with that. And I think this is a big thing where you're trying to juggle these two kind of personalities. And that was one of my biggest challenges. And that's why when I see trainers in that kind of loss zone, I know now with the systems that I have in place, how to overcome that. And it's not just from having a conversation, it's a set process of doing it. But, that's what fulfills me, getting somebody back on track so they're inspired every day.
You know what? It's kind of a blessing that you went through certain things, that you've experienced it and you can take note from it. And that way you will know what other people are going to go through. So it's like, yep, don't worry. I've been there. I can tell you exactly what to do. So these things that you have in place now, it can really create a great foundation for people. So as you mentioned about the, what do you call it? No, not self-esteem. There was another word you called it.
Self-confidence, overwhelm.
Self-confidence. That is the real foundation, really. Yeah. And I think when I look at a lot of personal trainers or people in the fitness industry, I think a lot of people kind of get into it because of the way they look.
Yeah.
And, or some people, they may get into it because they see it as maybe an easy avenue to get some kind of fame. Oh, I see how this person is doing it. Oh, I need to do that. And, it's a real kind of surface value thing. There's no real essence, like deep-rooted love, passion for it. So the moment there's a slight turbulence, they fall apart immediately.
Completely. It's superficial, and I think that's an incredible. What you've just said is, you know, a lot of fitness professionals. I mean, I'll be honest with you, you know, I was bullied at school. I wasn't particularly, you know, I had some great friends, but didn't do particularly well with the girls. I wasn't particularly very intelligent at school, and here's the thing: as soon as I started going to the gym, I started playing better at sport. As soon as I played better at sport, my friends' network improved. As soon as my friends' network improved, my confidence went up. And then when I left school and started training a little bit more, I started to learn about training and read, you know, Arnold Schwarzenegger's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding and Chris Aceto's Nutrition for Bodybuilding. And I started to learn that I could change my body shape. And in doing that, it increased my self-confidence. Yeah. And funnily enough, this was at 14, 15 years of age. And this whole thing about coming into the fitness industry, I knew my purpose from the age of 23, 24, even though I was kind of coming out of partying a bit. I knew that if the fitness, if this thing, the gym, had made me feel this way after feeling so badly that way, I just want to make people feel a bit of how I feel.
Yeah, yeah.
Whereas on the flip side, if somebody's gone through a lot of low self-confidence, not really aware, and this is a big thing, become aware of your journey. I don't care whether you're in the fitness industry, I don't care, whatever you've been in. Go from the age of 10, 5, and just take an afternoon one day and write down the pivotal parts of your journey. Being bullied when you were 15, splitting up with a relationship that you think was horrific, and start to look how this actually is start to pan out and map out. Because to try and find your purpose, actually, your life so far has been very evidential of events that you've taken control of that tell you exactly why at the age of 19 you became a personal trainer.
Yeah.
Right? Like, here's the thing. Like I started lifting weights 14, 15 because I was bullied and I didn't feel very strong. And then when I started to play rugby, I realized that playing sport and winning and feeling good about myself was something I wanted more of. You know, I wanted to play rugby. I enjoyed hitting people when I played rugby. I got quite a lot of aggression. And then I played national, you know, representative rugby for my county. And then after that, I was like, what's the next challenge? What, you know, after playing rugby, I got to first team in my local area for many years. I was like, and there was this big part of me that said, can I get more? And then I actually, believe it or not, Roger, I remember at school having a box where we used to keep all our food in. I was at private school. And we had boxes like a tuck box. And in there was MD magazines from when I was 14, 15. And I didn't see them till I was 18. And I used to read these magazines and see these bodybuilders. And funnily enough, it's not until you go back through your life and remember that you had a photo of Dexter Jackson on your wall. It's not until you, and for those of you that don't know, he's an IFBB pro bodybuilder, still going strong.
Yeah. He's last Olympia now, isn't it?
I believe so. Yeah. I believe so. But I just looked at this chiseled midsection of this man and I was like, wow. And it blew my mind. And even when I wrote down the list of my journey, at the age of 17, I had a pair of those old Ronnie Coleman baggy bottoms. 17.
Yeah.
And I had a bulldog on a vest on my chest. And it was just like, I wanted to be that person. But if you don't go back over your life so far, you don't realize how much fitness played a part at 14. And then you actually realize that it's no surprise that you end up being a personal trainer. It's no surprise that you're embedded in the fitness industry. And then that gives you a purpose, it gives you a story, it gives you something to carry forward. And then you start waking up in the morning at 23, 24 going, I was actually supposed to be this person. And now I get the opportunity to help other people. And that's one of the things I like coaches to write out what their life has demonstrated so far, and then create a purposeful statement of where they're at and what they're here to do. Because there's nothing more amazing than somebody standing up and saying, I'm on this planet too. I'm on this planet too. I mean, look, you know, this podcast, you know, it's going to be reaching thousands, you know, and it's making, you created the podcast, I'm sure, to make an impact.
Absolutely.
And I believe that we all insiders have a desire to make an impact in some way, shape or form. You know, I wrote a book recently. It was with the intention of having something tangible on the coffee table of as many fitness professionals around the world. And for me, it was like, that's what I want to do. And okay, you might look at somebody and think, yes, they've got there where they are. But if you don't find what your purpose is now, you're never ever going to have your opportunity to leave an impact. So it might be, Why don't you find out now? I mean, I'm fascinated to work with, 19, 18, and even people just getting into the fitness industry at some point to say, what would happen if I helped you right now? Because some people say to me, just let somebody evolve through life and they'll get where they're going to get to in their own time. And I'm like, what if we didn't waste time? What if we stopped right now and said, can we do a deep dive and find out what your purpose and journey and life is going to look like, and take control now? Maybe people might turn around to me and say, yeah, but you should allow people to just evolve through life. And I said, well, when I was at 23, I did a real deep inspection of where I was. And I wrote a letter to myself and said, I'm going to be the best known trainer in my town. And then I wrote a list of how I'm going to do that. And then once I'd done that, in my perception, I said, right, I've done it. I wanted to be the best known trainer in Nottingham. When I'd got in the local press in Nottingham, I'd won, but I'd competed, and I was like, yeah, that's done. And I'm sure, like with your competing and various different things you've done through your life, there's always what's next.
Yeah.
And if you live by that mentality, if you can't see what's next, 9 times out of 10, you don't really know why you're here. And that's why, for me, to try and find out, it is so inspiring. And you can find out. You really can. You can, a great quote by John DeMartini, who I've studied a lot of his work over the years. He said, the quality of your life depends on the quality of the questions you ask. So if at 19, I had asked better questions of myself, I'm not saying that I want a different life, but maybe I would have started to investigate and find out a few more things about myself and about the journey I'm on a little bit sooner. And that's why if I, in an early day, if I can speak to anyone, fitness professionals, business owners, lawyers, just start to ask some more quality questions about you, what's got you here, where you want to get to, then the funny thing is we are masters of our destiny, right? We can decide how next week pans out. If we allow we are, right? Like if I want, I remember doing a 3-day kind of, I'd say retreat. It was a breakthrough event. It was with a company called the Landmark Forum in London. And the whole 3 days the title was How to Live an Incredible Life, exploring the possibility that life can be amazing. So what was incredible about it was going right deep inside yourself and saying, imagine waking up every day on your pillow and there was never an opportunity to have a bad day. As in, like, of course, we're going to have days where we're not at our peak, but you wake up grateful for everything that's going on. You're purposefully the kind of master of your own destiny. You're driving your own ship. So it's how to get in control. And I came away from there initially a bit lost because everybody around me thought I was a bit weird. Well, I'd played rugby for 22 years. When I started speaking to the lads, I was like, listen, I'm going on my own ship now. My destiny's here. And they were like, whoa. And so it took a little bit of time for me to adjust, but it was the first time I really did some deep understanding of myself. And whilst I am still and always will be, somebody that's, I have a great network of friends, one thing or another. There's a great deepness to me that believes that wherever I've got to, I've had a purposeful, intentional, every step of the way has been intentional. And I think if we lived a life of more intent, I want to get there, and to reverse engineer it, these things have to happen, I'll get there. And I think a lot of people think, I don't care what you think about achieving. It's not possible for everybody, Mark. And I remember at the age of 25, my NLP coach at the time said to me, anything's possible, Mark? And I went, no. Listen, you're either born wealthy, you're born silver spoon, load of crap. And she said, that's absolute rubbish, Mark. Everybody can create wherever they want to get to. And that was a big opening moment for me. So if you wake up with the intent of building an incredible physique every freaking day, the end result is an incredible physique. If it's, I mean, you train intentionally to stay the way that you look.
Absolutely. I've been doing it for many years. I mean, I started at the gym when I was 16, but I was training. My dad bought me weights when I was like 8 years old, and I was playing around with the weights then, but yeah, intently. I was training on a regular basis, and I started off sprinting. And I used to wake up about 6 o'clock in the morning to jog around the park. And this was like around 12 years old. Without anyone telling me, my intent was to be the fastest runner in London. And that's all my focus was.
Do you know what I find fascinating? If we stay aligned with the things that we truly love, they're actually the things that no one has to remind us to do. I'm sat here with books around me, on the floors, my training gear, my food I prepare still, and no one has to remind me to do those things. It's like a mother. No one has to remind a mother to go and collect their children at school. But they're the things that are deeply inspiring to us. And I think a lot of people don't identify what am I actually inspired by? Because training, you don't necessarily have to love training. You and I mean, we love going to the gym, love training, but you don't have to love it, but we can love the outcome. You know, we can love everything about it, but there are so many things that people are intentional about and get a great outcome of, and they don't realize that if they were intentional about a few other things, they'd get a similar outcome. You know, and this for me brings me back to coaching. It brings me back to being a personal trainer. So many of the coaches in the industry, fitness, even online coaches, they're not intentional with running their business because it's not truly something that they want to necessarily do, or they haven't identified their purpose within the industry. And that's where they get a little bit lost. And like you said, they get depressed, they get stressed, and they become very unfulfilled. And for me, if a trainer is going to be successful, it's not just a measure of how much they know. An online coach isn't going to be successful based on how much they know. It's whether or not they're living fulfilled and inspired on a purposeful, intentional mission to achieve something. Yeah. And if you ask anybody, what are you here to do? And they'll go, well, that's a bit deep. And I'm like, no. I'm here to inspire and help personal trainers find their purpose so they can have a fulfilling, successful, and happy career. And if you go back to when I was training people, I'm here to help people achieve a body shape that they never thought was possible. Take them to beyond where they thought was possible. My mum always used to say, if anybody would say, would you, oh, I'm going to train with your son. And she would say, he won't train you. Just because she knows they would mess me about. And I never forget her hairdresser. He was like, oh, I think I'm going to reach out to your son. And she was like, don't bother. Now, I trained everything from lawyers to bankers to mums to whatever. But with this guy, she just knew categorically no. Because I was so focused, and I'd always explain to people, I'll train anybody. Just come in and give it your all. And I think that there again lies an issue for trainers is, they'll train such a variety of people that 3 or 4, 5 years, 7, 10 years down the line, they've got nothing to show for it. And that for me is, if that's your own, if you could turn around to me and say, do you know what? I'm here and inspired to help everybody in this gym, as many people as possible. But then at the end of it, I'm like, are you fulfilled? Nah, not really. I haven't really made a big difference. It's like, well, part of your journey is to train a certain type of people to find out who it is that you love working with. And then once you get to that point of loving working with those people, you have an opportunity to make a bigger impact if you like. But being known for not a lot or being known for a lot is actually, we're all inspired by making a difference to something. And I think that goes back to kind of finding what that something is. And once we've got that, you can teach anybody Facebook ads. You can teach anybody lead generation. You can teach anybody how to scale a business. But if the business isn't right and true and congruent with the person, I think that's just a spiral of coming back on yourself every single time. No, that didn't work. Right. Try another business. No, that didn't work. And that's why you get some coaches trying to be a body transformation coach, trying to be a bodybuilder, trying to be this. And for so many years, they're trying so many different things. If you, right at the beginning, find out, what am I actually here to do? That's where I think that you've got people's opportunity to live an incredibly inspired life.
So you've now written a book, Level Up.
I have.
Congratulations. Congratulations. Is this your first book?
Yes, it is my first book.
Okay, man. Major congrats.
Thank you very much. You know what? I had somebody message me today, and there was on a IG story, and there was like, when's the next book? And I rang my publisher actually 3 weeks ago, and I said, I got another book in me, and they were like, trust me, not yet. And it's taken 8 months to kind of get to print. And I'm incredibly proud with it. And the lessons I've learned through doing it have been phenomenal. But it's been an incredible journey, because I didn't think I'd be able to write one for many, many years. And you know, when people have said online, like Brian Tracy's a very well-known, you know, growth, personal development expert, and he just says, everyone's got a book in them. Yeah. Everybody's got a book in them. And when I read that, I had like almost anxiety, because I knew I wanted to write one. And when somebody points out something that you see in yourself, that normally gives you the willies, as I call it. You kind of go, wish I hadn't seen that post.
Yeah.
You know, and it's because it's because they're saying the thing that you're saying to yourself. It's like, man, you got a book. You got a book. And I will tell you this. I remember being I'd been asked to fly out to, I think I said this to you on the phone the other day, but I'll explain it today, because it's a really valuable thing that I learned. There was that our greatest teachers are often the people surrounding us. We never actually ask them questions. It's like, what are my qualities in life? Do you ever ask those around you, your clients, your friends? Because often we're the worst person. You know, tell me your bio. Well, God, let your friends write your bio. You know, at the end of the day, most of the people around us know where our talents lie, where our skills lie, where our own inner genius lies. It's like, you know, you might ask somebody who's a colleague of yours to say, Roger, you're an incredibly kind, intense listener. In fact, even speaking to Eduardo, who you worked with at Third Space, he just says, you know, you listened a lot. Even when he remembered you from Third Space. And it was like, when you listen, when you say to people, someone's a listener, I mean, that's an incredible quality, because there's so many in this day and age, when you're talking to somebody and they're like this, they're not dialed in, right? And I do like looking and listening and learning. And I think that the interesting thing, and why I kind of came back to this, was I was in Kuwait. I was working over there with a family, with a gym, and I was asked to speak for 2 days. And the gentleman who owned the facility was a very wealthy Arab gentleman, and he was in his dish dash, and he was very smart, and he listened to me speak to this gym full of personal trainers all day. Now, bearing in mind, this is an uber successful man, clearly got a lot of other things going on in his life. He just was at the back, and he just listened intently to me. I thought, throughout the day, I thought, there's some value in this guy being here. And at the time, it was playing on my mind about writing a book. And this was 2 years ago. And I was kind of thinking, in the fitness industry, should I write, and this is a whole thing of, you know, am I conforming to what everybody thinks I should be doing in the industry? Should I write a nutrition book, a biomechanics book, a physique book? Like, should it be a subject book? And at the end of the day, I turned around and everybody had left. And I said to the gentleman that was there, I was like, do you mind if I ask you a question? And he said, by all means. I said, you've listened to me speak. You've heard some of my stories. You've seen me mix with people. I've been wanting to do a book for a long time, but I don't know what subject to write it on. And he said, you'll be writing a legacy book. And I went, he said, and you're not done yet, are you? And it was almost, it's almost like this guy was placed there to answer this question for me. And I was staying at a phenomenally lovely hotel in Kuwait. And I went and sat on the roof terrace by the pool about 11 o'clock at night. And I went, I'm writing a story. And at that point, last year, I spoke to my publisher and she said, you're either going to write a biography book or a roadmap book. And a roadmap book is literally where you're giving people a roadmap to follow. And I thought right back to this conversation in Kuwait. And I was just like, God, you know, life does give us instructions if we're smart enough to bloody listen. Yeah. And I think this is another tool, right? If we go through our day and listen, there's signs and signals and information and people that you think, well, that was weird. No, it wasn't. If you believe, and it's not a case of believing, it's if you just put your trust in that to be true. That guy was there and he gave me this piece of advice, and a year later, clearly it had an impact in me. When I spoke to my publishers and said, I know what I want it to be, there it was. So whether or not what the next book will be, I don't know, but I'm sure there's another one in there. And it's been a very exciting journey so far.
So just in brief, like, what is the entire book about?
So the book itself is the Fitness Professional's Roadmap to Achieving Excellence. And I remember excellent is more narcissistic. I'm the best. I'm excellent. Okay.
Right. Yeah. Cool.
However, excellence is a ENCE. There's no finish line. There's no end. So for me, life and my journey is about a pursuit of being better. It's just being better today than you were yesterday. Having measures and processes in place, personally, physically, and professionally, that you can identify areas in your life, and I've highlighted them all across the book. Personally wise, identifying your own limitations. They're either serving you or complicating your journey. And we've got to try and balance our emotions around how we're feeling so that we can navigate a journey with clear thinking as opposed to limitation. So the personal development section within the book is, how do we level up personally? Identifying a vision for our life, identifying our purpose, identifying our values. Are we living today truly congruent with exactly us? Or are we living our life according to who we think we should be? There's a lot of people living in life how my dad always wanted me to be like this. My parents always thought I should be like this. Let's just let go of that and you make the decision of the next steps. Because then we get people in control. And when you're in control, you're happy. Now, I say to so many people, would you be out of control making 10K a month or in control making 3? Because you'll make 10 if you're in control on 3. Right. But you might make 10 and then struggle to get to 12 because you're out of control. Then the physical section, and there is a lot of the information in the book about personal trainers and the challenges PTs go through and some attributes that I believe that people should instill in themselves to be success. And then it goes into physical. Now, being a man that's taken pride in his own physique, I'm not expecting or advising people to be a bodybuilder. What I am saying is that there is a beautiful gift in using your body as a toolbox to learn the tools of your craft. Our body is our greatest gift, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, that's what we have.
Well, yeah, that's all we have. But here's the thing. Okay, I get an injury. Learn how to fix it. Okay, I'm not sleeping well. Learn how to fix that. Okay, I'm challenged mentally and I don't know where I'm at in life. Learn how to get around it. Oh, I've got a knee pain. Learn about the meniscus. Oh, I've pulled my calf. Learn about the Achilles. Now, for every part of our journey, when I've wanted to add, I went from 80 kilos to 120 kilos. I chose to bodybuild. That was my own purposeful journey. But what I learned along the way about intensity and life and training my clients and helping them build muscle and helping people get fat, I've done everything that I've expected of other people. So along the way, hire a coach, build your own body. Now I'm saying this, if you're a strength coach, get under the bar. If you're teaching endurance runners, get running. But I remember Ben Pekulski, great friend of mine, he just said, just be 5x your clients. If your client's going to be a regional runner, make yourself a national runner. If your client's going to do the Miami Pro, do UKBFF. But be 5 times more. Just don't be on par with your clients.
Yeah.
All right. Be more. So the part of the physical section then goes into the education required to at least become a great coach and how to develop the physical aspects of being a great coach yourself. And then the professional section is very much about business and about all the aspects of business, whether it's finance and money, whether it's marketing and branding, whether or not it's sales, and how to develop more business acumen as a professional. Because to me, you can have a lot of business knowledge, but not physical. You can have a lot of physical, but the personal development journey is not there. So it's just like a roadmap to bring it all together. And hopefully it helps coaches. And I've had a lot of people that aren't in the fitness industry use it so far as well. So
it sounds pretty incredible, to be honest with you, tying everything together, because some people have one and not the other. So I'm writing a book myself, not quite the same as yours.
Are you really?
Yeah. I was approached by a publisher, and I've been, piecing some bits together. And yeah, it's a lot to do with, everything I've learned over the years. So, I started off with sprinting and moved over to bodybuilding. And so there's parts of it which actually takes people through my story and how I got into fitness itself, to give the real emotional side of things, the personal part of it. But then I also get into, lots of things to do with, wow, just different parts of fitness, to be honest. Talking about, understanding like human potential, things that I've gathered along the way, and looking at my view on building my own human potential, and getting people to have that sort of visualization. That's kind of what it's around, like, building the human potential. So I'll go into my understanding of what I've learned from like genetics and body types, the chemistry of biology, and fat loss, and tying everything together, because when people want to look at fat loss, it's not just a case of reducing the calories. There's so much more to it. There's so much more to understanding the body, looking in hormones and cellular health, microbiome. So I break down like loads of different sections to get people to think of the body in different sections. And it's like, okay, how does it work as a whole? And just taking people through my journey as to like how I came through these things. So it's going to be pretty interesting.
Don't you think that you just talked about the microbiome and physiology? When we have this beautiful thing that is the body, and how much, if we serve it well and feed it well, what our potential truly is, and therefore how much there is a possibility that people are missing throughout life by not having that human potential. That as you said it within your book, giving people the opportunity within fitness to look just outside the individual aesthetics of a muscle and how I look in the mirror, to how wonderful it is to wake up and feel fresh every day, how wonderful it is to have energy throughout the day, how incredible the gut microbiome can make the brain. And I think that what you're creating there is, when people come and have personal training or exercise, and they go, oh my God, in 2 weeks, I know I've lost some weight, but I'm sleeping so much better. And we're like, well, that's kind of how life's supposed to be. You do have an opportunity to feel well and feel great and feel energized. And then with that comes being happy and fulfilled. And I know it's taken me 19 years, and, I met my wife 4 years ago. And there was a huge journey. I mean, I said throughout my whole life, it's about fulfilling different areas of your life. And as you start building and layering on these different areas, wonderful things come in as a result of it. And I think that there's a lot of opportunities that are potentially missed. And you look at what you were talking about in fitness, getting the digestive system right, your sleep patterns right, your nutrition right, what's possible if you bring all those together. And I personally apply that to the fitness industry in terms of fitness professionals building a business, but it still comes down to, and I wrote in the book about physical, your sleep, your energy, your mood. If you want to build a business, if you're down in the dumps because you're unhealthy and unwell, then that's not a great foundation to build a successful business. And that's where I think that you look at a lot of the successful business owners now, that millionaires and billionaires, they do take their health important. They do see their health as an important part in their business. So when do you think your book will be out?
We're looking at I think March 2021.
Wow.
Because of the whole pandemic, it kind of pushed it back a bit. I am gonna have someone writing a little bit of it, because I'm working on so many things right now. I'm just going to be like, okay, I need you to just fill out these parts for me. But I've written quite a lot right now, to be honest, at least 40,000 words, but obviously a bit more to do. But yeah, man, I've got so much to cover. Even right now, as I'm interviewing people like yourself, I'm gathering more knowledge. I write stuff down. I see how it is congruent with the current things that work. So, you know, it doesn't compromise what I already know. There's no, you know, everything, there's synergy with the stuff that I'm talking about in the book. It's not like, wait, you said this and you said that. That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Things have to fit together.
Well, I thought that with the book with mine, you know, because during the pandemic, for the last 4 months, I studied in a lot during the pandemic. You know, I read a lot of books, and I actually got the book done towards the end of the pandemic. It launched on the 3rd of August, and as I'm now learning more, there are parts of me that goes, oh, I would have loved to have added that in the book, and this in the book, and that in the book, but you know, it's a collective of a journey, and we'll learn more, and that learning more is probably going to be the stuff that's led into the next one, right?
Yeah, no doubt.
I'm very
Quite
excited for you.
interesting. Thank you very much. Me too.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know, because I had a publisher come to me and said, you should write a book, and I was like, me? No. I need to be a few more years in the industry first. He was like, no. How long have you been training? And I think at the time it was, about 24 years. And he was like, yeah, you're due to write a book. And I was like, shit. I don't know. I'm nervous. You know, it's one of those things where, again, like you get these things where maybe things just come back from your past, which try to hinder you, try to hold you back. You know, these things that remind you that maybe you failed in school. Even though I've had such great success since I've left school, you know, I'm still reminded of school and how much of a failure I was at school. You know, it's crazy. But
you know, the whole, I at school scraped through everything.
Right.
And what fascinates me about school is, and how old are your children? You got your daughter, got one?
I've got 3 kids, actually. I've got
wow.
two older ones. So my youngest, she's 6. She just turned 6 recently.
And with, I mean, I haven't got children, but you know, Ben Pekolsky, as I said, great friend of mine, and he describes his children as just incredible little human beings. And I just love that saying, because at the end of the day, you know, we have that gift in anyone that we have the privilege of, whether it's children or people who are hiring us to support them on their journey, but supporting a child and finding out what's inspiring to a child, and then allowing, you know, through school and the school that I was at, nothing was done to try and help you understand what you were motivated and inspired by. A curriculum with school is very much, this is what the curriculum is, you do it. And a lot of children aren't fulfilled doing it. And it fascinates me to watch how well children succeed when they're doing things that they love, you know. And that for me at school, I think the funny thing is, and you talk about, you know, microbiome and physiology and biology, I didn't pass any of that at school. In fact, I couldn't stand it.
Yeah.
And I've ended up educating on hormones and gut and digestion and sleep and stress and biomechanics. And when you look at biomechanics, it's about physics. And I'm up there presenting physics and angles. And I remember my dad heard me speak once, and he was like, where the heck did you learn that? I was like, I just buried myself in books and learned it. And this amazes me, because so many of us later on in life learn the things that were taught to us when we were younger, but because we weren't inspired at that young age and we couldn't link it to something that we loved, but then as soon as I could link it to personal training, I'm straight in a physics book.
Yeah.
It just fascinates me, because I think schooling would be incredible if more was done to find out how you could link the subject to the thing that the child's inspired by the most, and see if we could create a link between that and how much better learning would be, and different environments for learning. I'm by no means, you know, going to guinea pig my child when I have a child, but at the same time, I'm going to be very mindful of the greatest parts of my life is when I found out what I was inspired to do. And that was when I was 17, 18, wanting to become get into the fitness world, you know? So it's a fascinating subject for me, and one which, you know, I'm not on this planet to make an impact on the educational system of schools, but certainly like you said, failed at school. I didn't do very well at school, but why on earth have I then ended up writing a book and teaching the subjects that I couldn't stand? That blows my mind, because at school I went, you're rubbish at maths, you're rubbish at this, you're rubbish at that, and rubbish at that. And you're never going to be good at it. They would tell you that at school. You're never going to be good at chemistry. And you're like, do you know how damaging that is to a kid who goes on to achieve way more than you ever will?
Mm-hmm. I think it shows how much the teacher failed, really. And, well, the teaching system alone. I remember seeing a video on Instagram, this guy who puts out inspirational videos, and he was just talking about how things has developed over the years. He said, like, oh, this was this is the car in I don't know, like the 1800s, and this is like a car of today, and this is, and he compared something else, I can't remember what it was, of 1800s, and this is of that of today. And then he said, this is the teaching style in the 1800s. And then he said, this is it of today. And it looked exactly the same.
Wow.
So the point of that video was, he said, the teaching style has not changed, but yet they expect us to change, us to develop. And it was a real big eye-opener, because it's like, why are they still having children sit on these seats while the teacher is writing up on the board and just speaking directly to the kids, expecting them to enjoy learning? These are children. Children want to enjoy life, and learning isn't necessarily fun unless you make it fun.
I heard something that was incredible yesterday. They talk about kids having, I'd probably say at school, they tried to say that I'd got, mild dyslexia or whatever, growing up. They were trying to label me with these kind of learning issues when I was younger, which really frustrates me now, because if you actually look, I remember hearing recently, of a child that parents said clearly dyslexic or autistic or something, just will not do the work at school. And again, John DeMartini, in one of his teachings, would say, the parents sat down and said, you have to fix this child. As if the parents said, you have to fix this child.
Wow.
And this child's like, but there's nothing wrong with me. I just don't like this subject. And he went, okay, well, let's do a little test, shall we? You say your child's not intelligent. You tell your child's not good with figures. You tell your child doesn't like learning. Yes, can't stand it. Okay. Little boy, he said, what do you love to do more than anything in the world? And he went, play my computer games. And he told him the exact computer games that he wants to do. He's done all the levels, knows all the boxes, could tell you all the players, all the scores, and he can add all the scores up of everybody in every different section. The child doesn't have a learning problem. He's inspired to learn off this whole thing that he's been through. Now, if you attached computer games to the way he wanted to learn, that kid would probably be a genius. He was just so inspired by something else and not that learning style, that because that learning style didn't conform to what the parents wanted him to do, because that's what they did, he's a loser.
Yeah.
But his learning style in this modern era is very different. And if he's going to learn, like if you have a child that loves golf and he plays every golf game, and then he's able to score all of the individual shots and the handicaps and the pars and whatever, and then he can you name the top 6 golfers in the league on the computer game? Of course, so-and-so. And what was his round? He did 92, he did 100, and you can just articulate it all. Surely you can't say that child has a learning problem if they can rattle off all that information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that blows my mind again, because if you asked me when I came out of school to put together a training program that was periodized over a particular period of time when I went through my personal training, of course I could. And I remember sitting down listening to a strength and conditioning coach who took you through a full 4-year periodized plan for a strength and conditioning athlete to the bobsleigh. I watched the whole thing so intently. I came off and sat on the plane on the way back from America. And I went, I'd love to, and I was studying it the whole bit all the way through. And there was one bit on the plane journey. I said to myself, where have I learned to be this focused? And we are focused with the things that we're deeply inspired to do. Yeah. And that blows my mind, because children, if they find the things that they're deeply inspired to do and love, And if you did that to me at school and took me in the rugby and weightlifting and sports arena, and then linked the sport and rugby to the necessity to learn a subject linked to that sport, I think I'd be very good.
And I think that's how it is probably with a lot of kids. If it was a case of, they're assessed to find out what their real interests are, and teachers were to be like, okay, this particular learning style is that's what's going to work for them. This is the approach which we're going to make for these children. It's just a pity it's not that way. Okay, we're going to do it this way or the highway. Let's move on. I want to ask your views on different types of diets, really. You've got so many different types. You got people who decide to be vegan, carnivores, fruitarians, paleo, flexitarian. What's your generalized approach to diet? Do you have a certain systematic approach or viewpoint?
This is funny. Last year, having been a meathead for a long time, 6-7 meals, Tupperware, everywhere you go, tube, plane, train, you name it. You've been there, Roger.
Oh, yeah, of course.
You're looking at me going, awful.
No. I definitely can relate. If
you're listening to this, I was thinking, oh my God, Roger's going, what a loser. But yeah, we've been there. But here's the thing. I remember I've got video libraries that when I used to do online coaching for a lot of people, when people signed up with me, I'd have videos explaining the nutrition, training, etc. And every so often I go and look back over them for a bit of a laugh. And I used to be very fixated on if I eat this way, you eat this way. So I would have like postnatal women start on 5 meals a day, and make sure that they didn't leave the house without Tupperware. I mean, I got very good results, but at the end of the day, I think before social media, that was kind of a very polarized view that personal trainers were almost like fitness and physique people, and that's the way that it worked. And as science became very more evolved, and we became open to a lot of these different diets and their research, for a long time I studied under the Poliquin Institute, and Charles Poliquin was very, very much along the Paleolithic style of eating.
Right. Yeah.
And I personally really struggled with that, with energy. And I remember I competed 6 years ago, and Jacob Wilson, I don't know if you know him, Dr. Jacob Wilson. He is a professor, a lecturer, was at Tampa University. And Ben Pekulski was competing at the time. And I would go over, I'd train with Ben, and he took me and actually and did a test and looked at your metabolic energy expenditure in terms of, it's called a metabolic cart. So they look at your whether or not you're predominantly a fat oxidizer or a carbohydrate utilizer. And Ben had actually dieted him for his show, and we ended up doing a segment on a YouTube channel about kind of metabolic flexibility. So you can adapt yourself to be more of a fat burner and more of a carb burner. And during the prep, I was on around 60% of my diet was carbs, and I was 63% carb utilizer. But Ben was more fats, and he had adapted his body through fat adaptation to be more of a fat burner. But he had a lot of energy using fats. He was lean. He felt fantastic. But on carbs, I feel great and fantastic. But I can adapt myself. And it was my first kind of real opener to, wow, people can eat kind of different, feel a different way. And I've always eaten, Roger, mince beef for breakfast.
Mince beef for breakfast.
I always eat mince beef and nut butter, mix it up, bit of a random mix for those listening to the podcast. But for me, I kind of noticed that my energy levels feel fantastic in the morning if I keep just some coffee and some meat, and I don't really have carbs until I kind of hit around about training. And what I started to do was just kind of play around with certain things. And even through my coaching, I started to realize that genuinely, so long as I kept people within a kind of caloric range and they weren't overeating, trying to get people to eat roughly something that was possible was a great way to look at things. Because we create 9 times out of 10 in the fitness industry, we create a diet that's quite an impossibility for people by giving them lower carbs or giving them, let's start keto. It's the great way for you to go. There's a lot of research on keto and cancer and all this kind of more advanced science. But to answer your question, I think the first step with anybody is to find something that they can follow realistically. Yes, of course, around the 30%, protein intake, ensuring that we're having enough protein. But firstly, finding out something that works for you. Yes, we can talk about carbs in and around training and how it affects blood sugar pre-bed and all this sort of stuff. But I think ultimately the first thing is, if we're trying to help people lose weight, the first thing that we've got to do is respect a caloric level, an amount of food, in my opinion. And then if we can start to manipulate that diet, depending on, and we've got people coming to see us just like you would, who are, by medical standards, more likely more insulin resistant, and therefore would predominantly do better on a lower carb diet. But if they're not overeating and they're not diabetic, it doesn't mean that their pancreas has stopped producing insulin. So they could manage some carbs. And that's where I think when we actually look at all this, the big issue that we've got in the fitness industry is, can we find something that someone's going to follow to start with?
Most important.
Can we? Because we've got to balance a lot of struggles. We've got people that are busy in the city of London or wherever they are in the world. We've got all these things going on. And I know John Berardi was just, in a great book that he had, Changemakers, he said, we need to be very much more client-centered and not coach-centered. Right. I've been studying the ketogenic diet. I've been studying the Atkins diet. You need to follow this. Let's be client-focused and say, what could you follow? If you've asked me to help you lose weight and our target is going to be this, what could you follow? And if we start there, of course, we can go down the realm of keto and we can start to look at all these different diets. But the first thing is, what's the goal and what's likely possible? Now, here's the thing. If you're going to be an endurance runner and you're nailed in with your diet, or you're a bodybuilder, of course, we can look at the research in fat adaptation for endurance, or we can look at, carbohydrate-based diets for bodybuilding. But my initial answer to you is based on very much general population people is, let's get to the question of what could you follow rather than what I think you should follow.
Makes total sense. What's your thoughts on people who just blindly go with what's in fashion, such as veganism? There's a new, vegan craze right now.
There is. Got a great question. Do you know, I think there's something that's very important to kind of address here. I think that a lot of people are not certain of themselves. And if they were certain of themselves, they would make choices that weren't based on the opinions of others. And a lot of the people that follow things, and you say, why are you vegan? And they can't give you a definitive answer, then that is somebody that's following a trend and following the values of others. So I think this is great. I'm going to follow this. Yes, I think it's a good idea. I think it's naive in a lot of cases when you say, why are you a vegan? And then you're unable to explain why you're a vegan. And everyone's free to do whatever they like. If you would love to be vegan and you're happy being vegan and you can notice how it makes you feel. But I also know there's probably a lot of people that are doing vegan diets that aren't aware of how it makes them feel, but they're following it to be just it's veganism, and I'm going to stick my foot in and say I'm doing it. So I think that there would be a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily be that way if they weren't conforming to other people's views and values. And if they were conforming to their own, then maybe they'd make different choices. But at the same time, I'm also going to say that my research into veganism in terms of should you or shouldn't you do it, it's not very thorough. So therefore, I would never tell you whether somebody should or shouldn't do it. But I'd say a lot of people that I know do it will often say, I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm just trying it. And therefore, if you're like that, I would say, pull your head back and try and work out, what's your goal? What's the outcome? How do you feel? So everybody's, to me, live your life, be happy. If you're not happy, change it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think with an approach to food, like if I was to make an approach to food, I'd like to understand a bit more about my family background. There may be certain foods that I've been eating over the years, and I'll make some subtle changes here and there. To make a drastic measure like that, taking meat out completely, I'm not too sure. Not too sure.
What's
I
your
wouldn't want
heritage?
to. Well, when I done a genetics test, it said African, about 78% African, and then there was some European and stuff like that. My parents are from the Caribbean, but like if we was to go in deep into the ancestral part, then Africa.
Yeah.
So, and I'm also an O negative, and I don't know if you follow the whole blood type diet and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I've decided certain things I will keep out of the diet, like corn and aubergines. I keep that, or eggplants, as people call it.
Yeah.
And there's some other stuff as well. Can't think off the top of my head. But I do tend to check and see how I'm feeling. If I eat something, how do I feel?
What a great tool.
I know, right? It's basic. It's basic.
Yeah.
I know, for instance, if I eat bread, I love the taste of bread. I do. But if I eat bread, I know my stomach swells up. And if I eat, in fact, I probably get a better response from eating white bread than eating brown bread.
Yeah.
The moment I have gluten, I'm not celiac, but if I eat gluten, my stomach swells up even more.
Quite a lot.
Yeah, quite a lot. Yeah. And that's the same with peanuts as well. Happens with peanuts. But with gluten, my body temperature raises. I get hotter. I feel hot.
Well, do you know what? I did 2 days quite a few years ago. Dr. Tom O'Brien. If ever you wanted to interview somebody on gluten,
right?
Interview Dr. Tom O'Brien.
Well, do you know him personally?
He won't. More than likely won't remember me, but I've met him through his presentations years gone by, and would be. I'm sure I've got his email address. I could do an introduction for you. But he's one of the world's leading authorities on gluten.
Oh, wicked!
And part of my education, we did 2 days on gluten. And for 7 years during my bodybuilding, I didn't eat bread because of his presentations.
Right.
Yeah. Now, this is where that polarized thing comes in, because I'll be honest with you right now. I eat bread every day.
Right.
And it doesn't cause me bloating. I stopped it because I was frightened by a lot of what was said. But then if I took away from it and said, hold on a minute, this was in Alzheimer's patients. This was in people that are showing signs of celiac. This was in signs of people that were seriously showing signs of having problems. My business and my life and my mindset has never been better. And I include bread. But here's the other thing. I don't include broccoli because I get bloated from broccoli. So not broccoli. There are certain vegetables. What is the one that I avoid sometimes?
What does it look like?
Sorry, you used to be broccoli, but I put that in. Sometimes it can be mushrooms. Sometimes if I have quite high FODMAP foods, the FODMAP diet, if I have anything that's kind of like more fermented foods, that can cause me to have a lot of bloating. I know we've obviously got candida in our guts, but depending on my stress levels as well, I'm very. I had a genetic test as well, similar to you, and I have a high. I'm a high B vitamin utilizer, and so from an energy perspective, I churn through B vitamins, and if I don't optimize my body with B12, B vitamins, CoQ10, I notice that I'm actually low on energy. Wow. If I try and follow without carbohydrates in my diet, my body looks flat. I have lower in energy. I focus well, but I'm just not peaking. So I tend to keep at least about 40-50% of my diet with carbohydrate.
That's so amazing.
But that's
like ideal. Like, I'm sure there's loads of people like, oh, I wish I was that person.
But you know what though? Here's the thing. Like, let's be honest. I just don't. I have a glass of wine a week and I have a meal whenever I want. But 9 times out of 10, I know what my diet is Monday to Sunday. Yeah. And I think ultimately the one thing that I am in control of now is I look at a meal and I know, is that my ideal caloric intake for that meal? And if it's more, then I expect to get fat. So that's where that's at.
That's interesting. So you said you competed, isn't it?
I did.
How many times have you competed?
7.
7 times, yeah.
6. Yeah, 6. No, 6.
6.
And do you know what? It was at a point in my life. I did 3 qualifiers, 3 British, My first year qualified first and got into the British, did second at the British UK BFF. What an incredible journey it was. And do you know what? It was later on in my life, you know, I'm 43 now, but I met my wife 4 years ago. And at the beginning, when we met each other, it was at the beginning of my prep into my last year of bodybuilding. And she dieted with me, and it was a phenomenal journey to go in with it. Oh, she just said, let's diet down together. And I went through the whole journey. But you know, the funny thing is, Roger, when I did my show and I turned around to my wife after I did the qualifier and then we did the British, I just turned around to her and I went, I'm not stopping bodybuilding. I'll just stop competing. Because that part of me, I mean, I did a shoot 7 months later again. You know, I'd be happy to just diet down for a shoot whenever. But I didn't get the fulfillment of the stage. And I think the reason being is that there's so many areas of my life that are deeply inspiring and fulfilling to me, that stage really did something for me at that time. But that's not to say I'll never go back to stage, but it's not necessarily for me to be there now.
Right,
you know,
right.
I'm sure a lot of bodybuilders will say, you know, right now the stage is the thing that's inspiring to them, and I'm fully behind you on that. But when I write a book, teach across Europe, do my seminars, mentor coaches, I'm quite happy to stay in shape all year round. But at the same time, to compete, you know yourself, I stop everything to compete.
Yeah.
I stop everything. And even though each time I've competed, I've written ebooks, and I think I've done 9 ebooks and wrote 1 to 2 ebooks every time I competed to give myself a project. But I would let everything run alongside it, but I would bury myself into do the competing. And I almost know that to go there again, I need a good space of time to commit myself fully again. And I'm not saying I'm not saying never.
Yeah.
Because you know, the challenge of competing, I thrived off but I found that I could bring that challenge in many other areas of business.
Very true.
But you're
Very
competing
true.
again, aren't you, Roger?
Me? No. No. I mean, it was fun. I did truly enjoy it. I loved it, man. Loved the stage. I think it's like, because you know, at the very beginning of my life, I was an introvert for so many years, and it was like being on the stage just allowed me to just break out of that introvert person. I don't know, like, it's a bit of a label really saying an introvert, but like, I do like my own space. I do like, you know, when the whole pandemic started, I was fine. You know, people, oh, how are you doing during these crazy times? I'm like, oh my God, it's great. I love it. I don't have to see people. I feel great. But going on the stage, there's something really magical about it. It feels like it's my time to shine. And, you know, when people go on the stage and they're a bit frightened about, like, you know, being judged and stuff like that, my mindset when I'm on the stage is not that people are judging me, but more a case of people are there to see me. They're there to support me, or they are only there to see me. Like, almost like I'm there when I go on the stage. It's like, okay, I've arrived. Like, you should all be happy now. That's like my mindset. So it's such an exciting feeling when I'm on the stage.
It's a performance as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. You get to showcase, like, you know, your physique. And, you know, I just remember spending much time not just practicing my poses in the mirror, but I remember I used to spend nights like listening to sort of tranquil music and having like oil burners in the back and visualizing myself on the stage. And so I wouldn't really practice the posing so much, but I'd spend so much time seeing myself on the stage, because I understood that once you're on the stage, the mirror is removed and all you see is the people. So in my head, I could already see the people. When I watch back videos of me on the stage, I can see myself like really enjoying myself, because it's like I'd already prepared for this. I already saw the crowd in my visualization. So it was so beautiful, so easy.
Wow.
But I feel as though you know, it was a stage which I needed to go through, and it was good. But I don't know if my passion will still be the same to compete on the stage right now.
but you've got other interests. Obviously, I think there's always a stage that we all go through, and there's a few things. If we're evolving, change is inevitable. If I was still competing, I don't know whether my life would have evolved. And just like getting to the end of rugby and evolving into bodybuilding, I still train very hard every day, or 5 days a week. And I have such, my purpose and mission in life, like my mission in life was to build the best body as I could and win the shows and do what I did. And then one of my biggest visions was utilizing my body to learn about the body and then build my body to build inspiration, recognition, and in the industry. And I always said, this is something I said on a podcast the other day, actually, I said I'd never meet my wife until I built a body, a business, and a brain. I said that at the age of 25 to my NLP coach. And it wasn't until I was 33 that she said to me, I said, Jane, why have I not met my wife yet? She went, do you not remember telling me when you were younger? You're not going to settle down till you meet, till you built your body and your business and your brain. So I had this intent, because I was so small at school, to build a body, but I didn't want to build a body that I could see. I wanted to build a body that people could see. And whether or not that filled a void, and it was like, Frank Zane, the 80s bodybuilder, remember? Frank Zane wrote a book called Mirror. I think it's called Mirror. And he said that your body is either a shield of armor or a completion of your character. I'll never forget the book.
Wow.
And I love this, Roger, because for a long time, my body was a shield of armor. Walking down the street, making sure people could see me. And I remember going out on nights out, and I'd be the guy that would do that at the bar, just to see if I could get a little bit of a rise, and that was an unfulfilled aspect of my life, fulfilling it with just giving it a bit of that. And I remember, and I'm grateful for that because I learned a lot from that time in my life. But right now, training to me is about physical fulfillment and keeping myself strong and looking in the mirror and being proud of what I've achieved, but it's not a shield of armor. I don't feel like I need it to actually, by the way, this is Mark. He's a body. Mark is something else. Mark is something deeper than that. Whereas when I had just the body, but inside there was not a lot, I was trying to find myself. The physical exterior of my body kept me safe and secure, and actually was a shield of what was going on inside.
Yeah. It's fascinating. As I'm listening to you, it kind of takes me back when I started to build my body. I felt as if almost like this is all I had, because I hadn't built my mindset yet. It was a complete wreck. I had low self-esteem, and it was like, if people don't ask me any questions, then they won't know I'm stupid. Just look at my body. That's cool. Like, judge me on this.
Yes, of course.
And as I started to get older and my mind started to develop, it's almost like, I'm proud of what I've created, but I do want people to kind of just move their eyes away from the body a bit and just look in my eyes, because people can just forget who you are and just judge you for your body. Sometimes it could be great, but sometimes oh, come on, could you just focus on me for a second? Have you ever had that in your life at all?
Well, here's the thing. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but I've known you as a body the whole of my career in the fitness industry.
Right.
I've never, ever heard you speak. No, I mean that. But how wonderful the perception that I build of you.
Yeah.
If you say to me, oh, you're going to meet Roger tomorrow, what do you think of him or know of him? I think in life, especially with the social media world that we live in, perception goes back. Perception is a wonderful thing. Perception is what we feel or think about something. We perceive. And I spoke to you the other night, and I said to my wife, I had an absolutely lovely conversation with Roger. I really enjoyed speaking to you. But my perception of you prior to that would have been completely different to who you are. And going back to kind of like my physique, my shield of armor was, you can see I'm a big boy. Keep out my way.
Right.
And underneath that, there's so many personal trainers that never got to know me. And as a result, when I opened up who I was on social media, when I created this is the world ability to get to know Roger Snipes, this podcast.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that the purpose of the podcast is to allow the world to see that there is a lot more to you than the body. And it's more than likely that you're, forgive me for saying this, doing this, not actually purposefully, intentionally, but the podcast for me, do you know how many personal trainers contact me weekly and say, I never thought you were like that. And I listened to your podcast, Mark, and I'd love to do some work together. I'd love to, and I'm like, I've asked trainers so many times, would you have come to my seminars if you hadn't have heard my podcast? They went, no way. Because the old me used to just show all the rah and all the rah. And we forget that, if we're wanting to be in an industry where we want to welcome people to come and speak to us, what we're 9 times out of doing is pushing them away, and a physique can push people away. But then with this world of video and podcasting, we get an opportunity to get to know people. And I think that for me, my body was always a shield. And it did a very good job in terms of inspiring people to want to work with me and help me build a business. It didn't help me in business in terms of relationships and people that worked for me, because I was very internally quite aggressive and angry with myself, trying to find out, okay, I built this body, but this was supposed to make me happy.
Yeah.
But it's not. It didn't. And it's so funny. I listened to Tom Bilyeu, who created Quest Nutrition, and when he sold it for millions.
Mm-hmm. Quest.
He woke up in the morning and he's got money, millions. And he went, how did it make you feel? He goes, well, I woke up the next day and I was still Tom. And I just love that you can spend all these years building this body and looking at yourself. And inside is the thing that's truly fulfilling. Because it's a completion. Your body's a completion, and you look in the mirror, and I'm never ever somebody will say, yeah, but you don't need your body. I'm like, I do, because my body gives me purpose to train, purpose to be strong. And also I've been given a body. It's my responsibility to look after it if I want to be around a long time. So I'm inspired to be strong. I'm inspired to be healthy. I'm inspired to sleep well. But that thing inside, when I had the shield, this exterior, that thing was what I was trying to work out, just like you. Mm-hmm. And I think that you and me will not be alone in this world. If any people that have built a physique are listening to this going, I get that too. I built a body, and inside I've been actually trying to catch up with my mind.
Yeah. That's fascinating. Right?
I think we all do. I thought that the route to happiness, do you know what I thought? I also thought if I built a physique, I'd meet my wife, because I'd, build something that they want, build something that's this. And the funny thing is, but actually what they want is the values of the person and who the person is, because, exteriorly, but internally I wasn't all together myself. It wasn't really a complementary package. But what a incredible, comparison you've made there.
I think for a lot of women, if they desire a man who looks good, it's not necessarily the way he looks, but it's the dedication he's put into it. I think that's what they really admire. And I think some guys, because with men, they're a lot more visual, isn't it? Like I remember speaking to many friends, like, when they're looking for a woman, what are you looking for in a woman? Oh, she's got to look this way, look that way, look this way, have this, look. Okay. What about like internal values, personality? Oh, that. Yeah. I just find that fascinating. But with a woman, I think that's probably one of the first things she'll speak of. Like, okay, a nice body is complementary.
I think the other thing when you speak to women, and this is what fascinates me as well, women, of course, find a man being financially stable attractive. I also think that the mirror image of what we meet along the way, we will attract what we feel we deserve.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, as I went through my life building my body and trying to build my business, I hadn't yet felt I deserved to meet the right person, and in turn was actually not meeting the right person. I was always meet trouble. But I think I got sent trouble to stop me from trying to settle down, to just, and this was a big thing for me. Like every time I met somebody, there was always an exit plan. There was always a reason for it not to work. And I looked for it every single time, Roger. Every time I met somebody, I went, but she's got children. Right. If ever I need an exit, it's the kids. Oh, she lives an hour away. Yep. And Roger, if I look back, there was always an opportunity to get out. I looked for it.
Yeah.
I looked for it at the beginning of every relationship. And I said to when I met my now wife, we went on our first date in London, and I left and I went, oh dear, I'm not looking for an exit. I'm not looking for a way out. And that was my sign that said, we're on. Because everybody else that I'd met along the way, it was always a challenge, and it was always, you know, I was actually very aware mindfully then. But I think that women, if you get a complete person, are looking for a man that's got some degree of financial stability, feeling very physically empowered in themselves, they've got a career. And I think it's inspiring, as you said, to have purpose and values. A man that knows where he's going, you know. And for me, when I didn't know where I was going, I was like, yeah, I'm just not ready to settle down, because there's a few things. And this was because I've done so much personal growth. It was like, there's a few things that I'm not yet done. I'm just not sure what direction I'm heading in. I just not got the icing on the cake in terms of my physique. Financially, I just want to be a bit more stable. And I just kept working at all these areas. And it wasn't until 3 years ago that I actually found out that I'd been trying to empower multiple areas of my life, and realizing that when I felt control of quite a few areas, I wanted my career to be where I wanted it to be. I wanted to be over my finances. I wanted to have my physique where it was. I wanted to have learned enough and also have a mission of where I was going with my career. And I thought, now I'm there. And that's what fascinates me, is that every time I've empowered multiple areas, loads of areas of my life have improved. And I find that, you know, if I go back when I was younger, you know, when you've not got all this stuff together, you'll necessarily meet somebody who's just attracted to you and not all the other stuff. So that this whole journey through our lives, I think that we're all inspired to kind of make the best that we can in multiple areas. But I think a lot of people, do they settle early? I think a lot of the challenges in relationships will always happen as one part of the relationship fulfills certain areas. So say, for example, a man becomes more financially successful and the woman doesn't move forward, or the man finds a new purpose and direction in his life, or he finds the gym and finds himself more attractive. There is this complete unbalance. It's all the time in relationships. It's a balance. One will do better, the other one does less. One does better in a different area. And that then fascinates me about communication and understanding what each other's values are, so that you can grow together rather than growing apart. And I found that, especially in the early days, as soon as I felt like I was moving forward in business, I went, right, I've left her, let's move on. Right, I left her, move on. And you know,
right.
It's just if we look at what you and I are talking about now in terms of personal growth and development, if people are unaware of why they're feeling the way that they are, going back to what we said at the beginning, if people are not in control and aware of their emotions and aware of their own energy and aware of their own values, then a lot of the decisions are going to be made very, very subconsciously around what people think is the right thing to do, rather than being in control. And that's why it goes back to me loving helping trainers, because if every decision you make is intentional and purpose, and you know why, and you can connect the dots, I think you're going to end up having, I know you're going to end up having a lot more of a fulfilled path. You know?
Sounds good. Yeah,
But
absolutely. That's good. One thing I wanted to ask you, one final thing. Obviously, you know, you're a very successful coach yourself. What would you say are the pillars of success for a coach? The main pillars.
Pillars of success for a coach. First and foremost, as a coach, essentially practice what you preach. So be a business card of your brand would be a very, very important one. A pillar would be a commitment to consistent, never-ending learning. Because I find that a lot of coaches get into coaching and don't learn enough, and learning is the cornerstone of confidence, and confidence is what a lot of coaches lack. And empowering your knowledge is very, very important. A pillar for a coach is identifying the vision of where they want to go, because we aimlessly cruise through life without a purposeful vision of where we want to get to. And when we can see a vision, that creates inspiration. And inspiration, as you know, creates energy, and energy creates momentum, and momentum equals a fulfilling life. So for me, if I looked at 3 pillars predominantly be practice what you preach, consistent, never-ending learning, and without doubt, create a very concise, clear vision. And once you get those three things, I think it's a foundation of kind of progress. And the last thing I'll say for a coach, if you're going to add a fourth pillar on there, is results. Like, I don't care what you do as a professional trainer, build a portfolio of results. I have a portfolio of results on my computer that will never leave me, ever leave me. I've got results, and hand in hand with results is credibility. Like, you look at Roger, Roger, credibility. Give me a list. If you write down what you've achieved, who you've been sponsored by, what you've achieved in your career, what shows you've won, what modeling contracts you've done. If most of the time in our lifetime, we struggle to charge amount of money or command an amount of money to help fulfill our financial destiny in life because we don't value ourselves. Well, if we stack up the chips of credibility, that's what you're worth. And if we want to have an amount of value in our life, stack up your credibility chips. Because if you've got champion, cover, this, you go, I value me. And I think there's a lot of undervaluing, if you want to charge more, work with certain types of people, but you've done nothing to earn it and you've got no results to prove it, then there's no wonder you're not moving forward.
Very true. Yeah. Mark?
Roger.
That's powerful, man.
Thank you so much for this evening. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, it's been thank you. As you know what? I feel like I need a part 2.
No. Well, do you know what? It's an absolute pleasure. And I've known you, seen events. I know I'll have seen you've competed, but it's a pleasure to talk to you and have a incredibly inspiring conversation.
Thank you very much. When my book is out next year, I'll definitely send you a copy.
No, well, yours is here. I've been teaching, and yours is here. Look.
All right. Okay. Lovely.
Yeah. So I've got the address. I've got a few to send out, and rather than nip up to the post office with every single one, which I did say to myself, people message me, go, "Send me a copy," and I was like, "Listen, when I've got 10 stacked up, I'll go to the post office." But when I went and did one at the post office, the postman said, he went, "Mate, don't get into a habit of doing ones." I went, yeah, you're right. So I've got a stack here that's going out.
So where are you based again? Is it North London? I can't remember.
North London, yeah, I'm Highgate.
Highgate, that's it. Yeah, because I was thinking Muswell Hill, where I used to live. I almost got broke living there. Jeez, like rent was so expensive. Do you know what? I don't know. Maybe I could even meet you down there or something.
Yeah, well, I'd love to meet you. I'd love to meet you. We'll train and catch up. I'd love to.
Yeah, we'll discuss this.
Yeah, look
off the
setting
podcast.
a mandate on the podcast. What are you up to on Wednesday, Roger? People will say, love the episode, but this bromance was blossoming at the end of the call, which was kind of unnecessary.
I know, right? Oh,
amazing. Well, if you can't laugh.
Yeah, for real.
Amazing.
All right. So, yeah, no, greatly appreciate it. That was incredible. Really lots of great informational stuff about, personal development, business, the industry, diet. Oh man, even relationships, a whole mixed array of stuff. I'm sure a lot of people have a lot to walk away with. So what is your, Instagram account name?
So my Instagram is Mark Coles M10. And as of whenever this gets released over the next couple of weeks, the new website, m10life.com. m10life.com is available now, but we're updating it in a couple of weeks, which will signpost any fitness professionals or anybody who's interested in knowing what we do. It's a very well-designed, signposted website to find out everything that we're all about in terms of the education. Yes, that's how you can find out more about me.
Splendid. Are you on YouTube? Are you on Twitter?
Tweeting away. I'm on YouTube. A lot of my training videos are on YouTube. I taught a lot of exercises. The podcasts are on there now.
Cool.
And the most of my stuff, if I'm honest, is Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. I'm not tweeting. I know you're mad on TikTok, aren't you? No, I'm joking.
No,
You know, hold on a minute, Roger. You could have ended up with that recent video of you doing your robotics.
Doing the whole, yeah.
Which you used to do that on stage, right?
Yeah, a bit of that.
Yes.
That's right. Yeah.
Yes. Does everybody? Yes, that's right. Yes, that's right. Let's leave that for the podcast. But head over to Roger's TikTok account for his robotics.
Oh man.
Thank you,
Mark. It's been brilliant. Thank you very much. And looking forward to catching up very soon.
Very soon. Thank you very much. You see the lights fading in the background for me.
I know. I've got my spotlight right here whilst yours is gone.
Well, we've been talking for ages, and I thought, the light's still on, but yeah, it's going.
All right. You have an amazing evening, sir.
Thank you, Roger, and thank you for having me on. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.